Have you ever watched a friend enter a new relationship, and from the outside, the red flags are just completely undeniably obvious?
Oh, yeah. Like glaringly obvious to everyone else.
Right. I mean, just neon flashing red flags. But to the person actually in the relationship, those flags are, well, they're totally invisible.
Yeah, it's an incredibly common thing.
And you watch them make decisions that seem entirely contrary to their own well being. And it's just baffling. You want to shake them.
It's intensely frustrating for anyone on the outside looking in. You just want to demand to know how they could possibly be so blind to what is happening right in front of them.
Exactly.
And we tend to fall back on, cliches like love is blind, or we just assume the person is being exceptionally naive.
But the reality is actually far more mechanical than just mere naivety. And that's what we're getting into today. Welcome to the deep dive, by the way. Today, our mission is to look at a fascinating set of clinical, really analytical notes that perfectly capture this exact phenomenon.
Yeah, these notes are brilliant.
They really are. The sources break down this relationship dynamic involving a character they identify as Zhang San and the woman who is trapped in his orbit, who they refer to as 045.
Right.
And we're going to look at the metaphorical information black box that Zhang San has constructed around her. We're going to scientifically dismantle how this architecture of manipulation actually operates.
Which is so important. The clinical framing in these notes is essential because it completely removes the blame from the victim.
Yes, exactly.
When you truly examine the mechanics of a relationship like this, it rarely comes down to the victim lacking intelligence or intuition.
No, not at all.
It almost always comes down to a systematic, very calculated deprivation of information.
Right. So to understand why 045 is currently completely blind to Zhang San's true nature, we have to start by establishing what exactly is being hidden from her. And the source material uses this really striking, visceral metaphor to describe his presentation. They call it the Arsenic Cherry.
Yeah, it's such a great image. Picture a beautifully crafted cream cake.
Right. Okay, I'm picturing it.
Sitting flawlessly on top is this glistening candied cherry. It is designed to look perfect. It looks incredibly sweet, deeply tempting, and entirely safe to consume.
Good.
But that cherry has been meticulously soaked in arsenic.
Wow.
And the poison doesn't change the outward appearance of the fruit. So she sees this tempting exterior, but she's entirely cut off from knowing how that cherry was processed or, what the lethal consequences of ingesting it will be down the line.
That is so dark. But in the context of this specific relationship, the sources highlight two fundamental flaws, these lethal bugs in the system that Zhang San is actively keeping out of 045's sight.
Right, the arsenic, basically.
Exactly. The first one is a severe genetic risk. His mother was diagnosed with lupus before his birth, meaning he carries a significant susceptibility gene for the disease.
Right, and he is fully aware of this predisposition.
He knows.
Oh, he absolutely knows. However, he has made a conscious, highly strategic decision to conceal this reality from 045 entirely.
Okay, hold on. Let me play devil's advocate for a second here. Sure.
If they are just in the early stages of a relationship, isn't his family medical history, just his own private business?
That's a fair question.
Like, is it really fair to label this a lethal bug and manipulation just because he isn't oversharing his genetic chart right out of the gate?
Well, if we were talking about casual dating or just the first few weeks of getting to know someone, that privacy argument would absolutely hold water.
Right, you don't dump that on date one.
Exactly. You don't owe an acquaintance your medical history. But the sources highlight that this concealment extends far beyond early stage discretion.
Oh, okay.
He is allowing 045 to build a serious long-term vision of a life together while actively withholding data that fundamentally alters that vision.
Oh, I see.
This carries massive implications for his long-term health, the potential genetic inheritance for any future children they discuss having,
Wow, yeah.
and the inevitable future caretaking burden that would fall squarely onto 045's shoulders. He is literally stealing her ability to consent to that specific future. That makes a lot of sense. You can't make an informed choice about your life trajectory if someone is actively hiding the map.
Precisely.
And that brings us to the second bug, which is a personality defect. He possesses traits of covert narcissistic personality disorder, or covert NPD.
Yes.
I was trying to visualize how this operates, and it feels like a real estate transaction.
Oh, how so?
Well, imagine a real estate agent selling you a house. It's beautifully staged, fresh paint on the walls, expensive flowers on the dining table. Maybe they're baking bread in the oven.
Right, creating that perfect vibe.
Exactly. But that agent is actively hiding a structural engineering report stating the foundation is crumbling and the house will literally collapse in 3 years.
That analogy perfectly captures the malice involved here.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because a crumbling foundation fundamentally changes the value, the safety, and the reality of that house.
Right.
By burying that engineering report, the agent isn't just being a clever salesperson. They are engaging in fraud. The danger here isn't merely that Zhang San has these personality flaws or genetic risks. The true danger is the deliberate, calculated concealment of them to trap the other person.
Right, it's entrapment.
It is a strategy of entrapment through omission.
So if hiding a crumbling foundation is his primary strategy, it really makes you wonder what the day-to-day reality of living in that house actually looks like.
It's pretty bleak.
I mean, how does someone operate a relationship when their core goal is concealment and entrapment? Because a clinical label like covert NPD isn't just an abstract concept, it dictates an entire operational system.
It creates an incredibly rigid operational system. The sources describe Zhang San's relationship model as strictly dominant service.
Meaning there is absolutely no equality in the partnership.
None whatsoever. I mean, most healthy human connections are built on the foundation of reciprocity, right?
Yeah, mutual support, give and take.
Compromise, exactly. However, covert NPD traits often manifest as viewing relationships through a purely transactional lens. The individual does not use reciprocity to maintain their connections. Instead, they use disguise and charm to acquire resources from people.
Just extracting what they need.
Yes, those resources could be emotional validation, financial stability, social standing, or even just physical care. The partner is basically a battery.
Wow. A battery.
And when that battery's drained, the dominant party simply discards them and plugs into a new one.
And the mechanism he uses to enforce this dominant service dynamic, keeping 045 locked in that service role, is what the notes refer to as cold violence.
Yes.
Which is essentially weaponized emotional withdrawal
Yep.
or the silent treatment.
The term cold violence is incredibly apt because it really captures the active cruelty of the behavior.
Right. It's not passive at all.
Not at all. When someone with these traits feels challenged or when their partner attempts to assert a healthy boundary, they don't necessarily explode in a screaming match.
Okay.
Instead, they create this freezing, punishing void. They withdraw affection, they refuse to communicate, and they act as though the partner has literally ceased to exist.
Which is deeply unsettling to experience. But why does that actually work?
What do you mean?
Well, if someone operates like a parasite, just extracting resources and then ignoring you for 3 days when you ask a simple question, why doesn't she just walk away? What is happening psychologically that keeps her there?
It all comes down to the neurological loop that cold violence creates.
Okay, unpack that.
When a partner is suddenly subjected to the silent treatment, their cortisol levels, that's the stress hormone, absolutely skyrocket.
Right.
They experience intense anxiety, confusion, and this desperate need to fix whatever they supposedly did wrong. So they start chasing.
Trying to repair it?
Exactly. They apologize, they compromise their own boundaries, and they submit back into the service role just to restore the peace.
And when they finally submit, he rewards them by turning the warmth back on.
Precisely. And that return of warmth
Right.
triggers a massive dopamine rush in the victim's brain. Over time, this cycle of intense stress followed by intense relief creates what we call a trauma bond. The victim literally becomes physiologically addicted to the cycle.
Addicted to the relief.
Yes. They aren't staying because they enjoy being ignored. They're staying for the dopamine hit of the reconciliation.
That is fascinating and deeply sinister.
It really is.
But surely this mask has to slip eventually, right? Like, keeping up a fake, enthusiastic persona while hiding covert NPD traits has to take a massive amount of energy.
You would think so.
Why doesn't she catch him in a moment of exhaustion before this trauma bond can fully form?
Well, this brings us to the pacing of the manipulation, which is the cornerstone of the information black box.
Okay.
These toxic traits, the cold violence, the extraction brand assurance, they are not unleashed on day one. They're held in reserve and only meticulously released as the relationship deepens. The source material actually outlines 3 distinct structural reasons why 045 remains entirely in the dark, effectively locked outside of this black box.
And the first of those reasons is strategic filtering. He is projecting a highly curated, spin-doctored version of his life. Like, the notes describe his public persona as enthusiastic, proactive, earnest, and deeply caring.
He is playing the role of the perfect partner.
Yeah.
And while he is projecting all of that positive light, he's actively filtering out the shadows.
Right.
He omits the family medical history. But more importantly, he scrubs his relationship history of any wrongdoing.
Oh, of course.
When he discusses past partners with 045, he certainly isn't going to confess to using cold violence to break them down.
Yeah.
He will present a filtered narrative where he was inevitably the misunderstood victim and his exes were, unreasonable or unstable.
Classic. That sets the stage perfectly. He completely creates the illusion.
Yes.
So the second reason she can't see the truth revolves around the timing of triggers. This kind of answers the question of why the mask hasn't slipped yet.
Right.
She simply hasn't reached the phase of the relationship where his NPD traits are activated.
It is very much like a video game where she hasn't yet unlocked the level containing the boss fight.
That's a great way to put it.
The sources note that these dark traits usually surface under 2 very specific conditions. First, they appear when a partner begins expressing their own independent needs.
Which directly conflicts with his dominant service model.
Exactly. And second, they surface when the manipulator feels they have successfully locked the partner in.
Yeah. So, like, once they sign a lease together or get engaged,
Right.
or once he has successfully alienated her from her support network of friends and family.
Yes. Once the cost of leaving becomes significantly higher for the victim, he feels safe enough to drop the exhausting act. But right now, 045 is still in the early idealized phase. The traits haven't fully erupted because he is still essentially securing the lock.
Which makes the third reason she is blind perhaps the most tragic one, the lack of a reference frame.
Yeah, this is a big one.
She just hasn't experienced his full behavioral cycle yet. She is only seeing the love bombing and the manufactured enthusiasm. She has been subjected to the inevitable discard phase where he throws people away once they are used up.
Furthermore, it is highly likely she has never encountered someone with covert narcissism before.
Right, if you haven't seen it, how do you know what it is?
Exactly.
Right.
If you have no previous experience with this specific pathology, you have no template to compare his behaviors against.
Well,
This is where human psychology actually works against the victim.
Oh, so.
Well, human beings are biologically and socially hardwired to assume good intentions. We operate on a social contract that assumes reciprocity.
Right, we want to trust people.
When someone acts earnest and caring, our mirror neurons and our social conditioning tell us to trust them. We do not naturally default to assuming we are the target of a sociopathic long con.
Because that would be an incredibly exhausting and paranoid way to live your life. You just never trust anyone, ever.
Yeah.
So, because 045 is trapped outside this carefully constructed black box, her logical conclusions about him are actually entirely compromised.
And the author of these notes makes a very explicit, crucial point here that requires deep empathy. 045 is not slow. She's not foolish. Every single judgment she is currently making is flawlessly logical based on the data she's allowed to observe.
Let's actually look at the data set she's working with, right? She thinks he is an enthusiastic person. And why wouldn't she?
Right.
She hasn't witnessed the cold violence he inflicts on others behind closed doors. She only sees the warmth and attention he directs at her right now.
And she evaluates him as emotionally stable. And logically, she should. She hasn't yet hit a boundary that triggers his narcissistic rage or his punitive withdrawal.
Because she hasn't tested it.
Exactly. She hasn't seen what happens when he's persistently contradicted.
Right. And she views him as future-oriented. Like, he is probably making all these grand plans with her, discussing vacations and life goals.
Future faking.
Yeah, but she hasn't seen the reality of his past, how abruptly he discards people once he has extracted what he needs. She believes they are laying the bricks for a permanent house, while he is merely setting up a temporary tent he fully intends to abandon.
It is so comparable to trying to identify a complex object in pitch darkness.
Oh, like the elephant analogy.
Yes. If you are only allowed to touch the trunk of an elephant, you would logically conclude you are holding a snake.
Right.
Your reasoning is sound, your sensory input is accurate, but your conclusion is wildly incorrect because the broader context is being deliberately hidden from you.
That cognitive dissonance has to be exhausting for the victim later on.
It's devastating.
I mean, when the cold violence finally does start, they must scramble to rationalize it to protect the image of the perfect partner they were sold.
Oh, constantly.
They start thinking, he's just stressed at work, or I shouldn't have pushed him so hard. They blame themselves because the alternative that the entire relationship is built on a predatory structure is simply too devastating to accept.
That internal rationalization is the ultimate triumph of the black box. The victim actually begins maintaining the illusion for the manipulator.
Wow. So if she is making logical choices based on manipulated data and actively rationalizing away the red flags when they finally appear, how do we help her?
Right, what's the intervention?
Yeah, how does someone actually escape this dynamic? Because according to our sources, the intervention absolutely must come from outside the closed system. You have to introduce new data to crack that black box open.
The most fascinating element of the intervention phase is that 045 actually already possesses fragments of the truth.
Really?
Yes, her subconscious is likely picking up on microexpressions, minor inconsistencies in his stories, or a strange, rigid structural pattern to his behavior.
Like her gut is telling her something is off.
Exactly. She might vaguely know he has had messy fallouts with others in the past, but she cannot connect the pieces yet.
It totally reminds me of trying to put together a massive jigsaw puzzle.
Okay.
Like, imagine you are handed 1,000 puzzle pieces. You're sitting at a table, diligently sorting them by color, trying to find the flat edges. You know they fit together somehow, but you don't have the cardboard box.
Right.
You have absolutely no idea what the final picture is supposed to look like. Is it a landscape? Is it a portrait of a person? You are just guessing in the dark.
That is the exact psychological state of a victim in this scenario.
So, providing the specific analysis, explaining covert NPD, defining the dominant service model, labeling the cold violence, it's like finally handing her the picture on the box.
Yes.
You are essentially saying, look, all those weird pieces you've been holding, they form a picture of a monster.
Powerful.
She still has to do the agonizing work of putting the puzzle together herself, piece by piece, matching her lived experiences to the framework, but now she finally knows what image she is actually looking for.
And to facilitate her putting that puzzle together, the notes outline 3 specific requirements once that reference picture is handed to her.
Okay, what's the first one?
First, she requires time.
Makes sense.
You cannot dump a reality-shattering perspective on someone and expect them to instantly absorb and act on it. This new information actively contradicts everything she believed to be true about her life.
Right, her whole reality is shifting.
She needs time to process the shock and weigh the new data against her own memories.
Okay. Second, she needs the vocabulary we are discussing today. Having a reference framework is incredibly empowering.
Giving behavior a clinical name strips it of its mystical power.
I love that.
When she learns the term cold violence, his silent treatment transforms from a mysterious personal failing on her part into a predictable, documented tactic of manipulation.
It takes the blame off her.
Exactly. It shifts the burden of shame back where it belongs.
And the third requirement for her to crack the box.
A window to observe his true behavior from a place of emotional safety.
So some distance.
She needs to be able to step back, perhaps set a small but firm boundary, and simply observe how he reacts. Does the mask slip? Does he immediately resort to cold violence?
Just watch what happens.
Yes. She needs to test the hypothesis from a distance, armed with her new vocabulary, to see if his actions align with the NPD framework.
Just by introducing this framework to her, by having this conversation and giving her the terminology, you are essentially prying open a crack in the black box.
The mere existence of that crack changes the entire environment.
Yeah.
Even if she rejects the premise initially, even if she needs months to verify if the information matches her daily reality, the fundamental dynamic has shifted. She now knows deep down that the glistening cherry on the cake might not be what it seems.
She might not fully perceive the arsenic yet. She might still focus on the sweet sugar coating because, that is what she wants to believe.
Of course.
But the seed of doubt is permanently planted. The next time he gives her the silent treatment, she won't just think she did something wrong. She will wonder if he is trying to control her.
The illusion of complete safety has been disrupted.
Right.
And disrupting that illusion is the absolute first necessary step toward a victim reclaiming their agency and their reality.
Let's pull all of these threads together. We started today by asking a very common question. Why can't people on the inside of toxic relationships see the red flags that are glaringly obvious to everyone else?
Right.
And as we've explored through the clinical notes on Zhang San and 045, the answer lies in the incredible blinding power of the information black box.
We must fundamentally shift how we view victims of these dominant service dynamics. They are not foolish, and blaming them for failing to see what was purposefully, maliciously hidden only serves to isolate them further.
Exactly.
They are systematically denied the truth through the strategic filtering of a flawless public mask and the delayed, calculated reveal of deep-seated issues, such as severe genetic risks and destructive personality flaws.
They are operating with pristine, flawless logic on a severely corrupted data set. The arsenic is cleverly hidden beneath the sugar, and the crumbling, dangerous foundation is covered by fresh paint and staging.
The only viable path out of that entrapment is to pierce the black box with external reference points. We have to provide the vocabulary, the framework, and the time necessary for them to recognize the rigid structure of the manipulation for what it truly is.
I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over as you go about your day.
I like this.
We've spent all this time analyzing Zhang San's meticulously crafted information black box and how it warped 045's reality. But think about the judgments and the absolute conclusions you make about the people in your own life right now. Your colleagues, your close friends, even your partners. Are you absolutely certain you are seeing the entire unfiltered picture? Or is it entirely possible that your firm conclusions about who they are based solely on the carefully curated information they have decided to let slip out of their own black box?
That's a chilling thought.
It certainly makes you look at that bright red cherry on top of the cake just a little bit differently.
It absolutely changes your perspective.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.